this day.
Thank you, Chair Nels and Ranking Member Payne, for holding today's hearing on rail safety. And safety in every mode of transportation should always be this committee's top priority. Since the Norfolk Southern derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, committee Democrats have been calling for a rail safety hearing and rail safety legislation. In fact, in May of 23, every T&I Democrat signed a letter asking for a rail safety hearing, highlighting the dozens of outstanding rail safety recommendations from the National Transportation Safety Board. Today's hearing is an opportunity to learn about those recommendations and what Congress can do. Nearly 1 year ago, we all watched as a giant plume of toxic fumes was released into the sky after the train derailment in East Palestine. Fortunately, no one died in that derailment, but it remains a stark reminder why we need to be vigilant about rail safety. The NTSB held a field hearing in East Palestine and took the unusual step of initiating its own investigation into the safety culture of Norfolk Southern. This incident was by no means the only rail accident that occurred last year. There have been more than 1,500 train accidents since the one in East Palestine. Among those, a middle-of-the-night evacuation was required in Raymond, Minnesota, where a BNSF train derailed. A CSX derailment that required an evacuation of Livingston, Kentucky just before Thanksgiving. CSX had 3 employee fatalities last year, 2 of whom were conductor trainees in Maryland. And in Skagit County, Washington, in my district, BNSF had locomotives derail along Padilla Bay, spilling thousands of gallons of fuel. In Washington State alone, over the last 5 years, there were 193 train accidents, 71 grade crossing incidents, and 167 railroad right-of-way trespasser fatalities. Communities around the country are looking to Congress to act. Over 400 local officials sent a letter last March asking us to address rail safety, including Mayor Jeffrey Thomas of Monroe, Washington, and then Mayor Jill Boudreau of Mount Vernon, Washington. There's promising news. Over the last 40 years, railroads have seen a decline in the number of accidents or incidents. In 1983, the U.S. had approximately 20,000 rail accidents and incidents a year. Today, we're down to around 4,400. That is a significant improvement, but there is still an upward trend over the last decade in accidents and incidents per million train miles. And communities across the country face challenges with railroads blocking crossings. At least 37 states, including Indiana, Ohio, Louisiana, and South Dakota, have passed laws prohibiting stopped trains from blocking crossings, but railroads have fought state efforts in court. The problem is, including for communities in my district, there are no federal requirements. Block crossings pose safety risks. Frustrated drivers may attempt to clear the crossing before a train arrives, or pedestrians, including children on their way to school, as the ranking members pointed out, may crawl between stopped rail cars. There were more than 22,000 reports of blocked crossings last year, most due to a parked train. First responders have been unable to cross tracks, and nearly a quarter of the time pedestrians were observed on, over, or through the train cars. So while the bipartisan infrastructure law funding will help address these problems, public funding cannot be the only response to this issue. The BIL was a monumental achievement, a supercharged investment in rail with $102 billion in planned funding. Many of these investments will improve safety along with making service improvements. And to date, the FRA has announced about $26.7 billion in BIL funding for 238 rail projects nationwide. Among the recipients was the city of Burlington, Washington, in my district, which received a planning grant to identify which one of its 16 at-grade crossings is most suitable for a grade separation. I'm pleased the city is able to move forward now with this project thanks to BIL funding. I expect great results for communities from these grants and additional rail funding to come because there is more to do. I look forward to this committee passing legislation to address rail safety concerns, and this hearing and future discussions with communities who have rail service, the people who are impacted by derailments, and the employees who operate the railroads will inform the development of legislative solutions. With that, I want to thank the witnesses for being here today, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields. Thank you. I would like to now welcome our witnesses and thank them all for being here today. Thank you so very much.